He loves it.
I do.
Everyone, the time is 6:30, and I'd like to call this District 204 Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Lawrence.
Present.
Member Vita Daniels.
Present.
Member Kozolka Campbell is absent. Member Dillon.
Here.
Member Giannotti Fry.
Here.
Member Kennedy.
Present.
Member Lopez.
Here.
All right, I'd ask that we all stand and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item is public participation. We have nobody signed up for this evening, so we will roll into our first topic, which is finance. Continued discussion on the real estate consultant services. So I would like, if we can, I'll turn it over to Brian to give us an update, at least to start the conversation about our inquiries for additional reference checks.
Yeah, we did, since our last meeting, received additional references from Mo Hall. So we have a total of 4 references listed on the spreadsheet now.
Great. Thank you.
Received but not discussed. Right. Have we heard from them? Wasn't that the question one of the questions last time, is not having heard from any of them yet? Or
It was just that we'd reached out, we'd only received one.
Okay.
So after the last meeting, we reached out to them again, and we also reached out to him to see if he wanted to add any more references, and he added 2 more. So we have a total of 4 now that have actually responded.
Okay, that was the
Yeah.
question. I guess I didn't phrase it right. That have responded. Thank you.
Great.
Any other questions on that? So then, as everybody knows, we received the draft proposal contract. We have James here to answer any questions. I think there were some themes of concerns or questions that we wanted to discuss in terms of communication. I know I've had some of those concerns other board members have shared, that they wanted to talk about what that looks like. There's some other topics that I think we wanted to memorialize in the contract, ask James any clarifying questions. So I will turn it over to the board to share some of their questions or concerns. Actually, go ahead.
I'll just start. I thought the agreement was really well written. I just had a couple of areas of question, concern, more for advice, I guess. My first one was on the payment terms and payment structure. If there's an opportunity for us to reconsider how we structure that, so that it's a little bit more balanced across the entirety of the agreement. And then the only other piece, which it looks like there was others that had the similar comment about just adding additional detail to the scope of work.
Yeah, there's several that, sometimes I don't copy exactly what's on the RFP response because I need to talk to the other side first about
Yeah.
some of that information. So, yeah, but I can put all that in. You know, some people had added some things, so that's fine.
So if we could go back to your first suggestion about the payment structure, just to make sure everybody's in agreement. I think you had proposed like a third
Yep.
at the beginning, a third halfway through, and a third at the end?
Yes.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
I wouldn't do it at the end, because you had said on completed sale, because what if we don't sell it? I mean, you know what I mean,
So if it's
what's-
worded that way, you mean?
So
Maybe
sale or
when-
end of contract?
I would say maybe once the bids are completed, and we won't, because,
No, you want it like that. The way it's drafted is, it goes, you were talking about compensation, I'm sorry, that's not how it's drafted. Yeah, we can tie the compensation to however you want it to be done. That's fine. So you could do it upon signing, and then upon bid release, however you want to do it, or tie it to a sale, or you make a decision not to sell, then that kicks it out. You could do any of that, whatever you want on any of that. So I'm happy to revise it.
So in agreement, we want to do a revised fee structure,
Yep.
front end, middle, and then would you have language, or you propose language for either at the end of the contract or upon bids being released, or?
Well, it depends on if you're to do I can come up with 3 different time periods. You don't need to debate that unless
Okay.
there's a real strong agreement amongst everybody to do that. Yeah, I can come up with 3 time periods in which to do it. Execution, some middle point, and then either termination, your decision not to sell or the close would be most likely the last.
That'd be great.
Everybody's
Makes
good
sense.
with
Yeah,
that?
that'd be great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And then the communication, I know there was discussion, do we want, so I believe, James, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a structure of monthly communication. We felt, or I think some people felt, that more regular communication was warranted, whether or not we do it weekly or twice a month, and or what that communication should be, I think is a discussion point for us.
So the way it reads, just is no less than once a month. He can send it more, but there's
Yeah.
nothing to report. That's why I put it in. But again, you can, if you want him to send reports weekly, daily, whatever it is you want, I'm happy to put it in.
So let's start with either time frame. Do we want it weekly? Do we want it twice a month? Which one do we want?
I
Or
would-
something else.
I would like it weekly,
Okay.
because that would coincide with Brian's weekly updates to us, just like we get from the lawyers, and
Yeah.
maybe there's nothing to be changed to it. But, you know, I don't know, do you do those like, but the lawyers are like in a Google Drive, or how, is it just?
They just send it to me.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, something like that, I just think it kind of keeps the same rhythm, if
And
you
it's-
will, that we've done.
And it doesn't have to be, I think, something complicated or,
No.
you know, it's really kind of just a checkpoint, a touch base. So I don't know if report is even the right word, but some form of communication on a weekly basis would be great.
Just
we
keeping us
can-
posted weekly. That's
Yeah.
it.
Just to clarify too, they do it monthly, Jill, the law firms.
Oh, do they? So, what do I know? Like, it all blurs together. It all seems like there's some update.
There
from
is
them all
an
the
update,
time.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and Brian's
Something
is
we're
every
getting-
week, so,
something.
yeah.
But I just think, you know, maybe specifically during the 60 days of like marketing time before we do. I feel like that would be.
The marketing could be longer, right? The 60 days is just the period from when you adopt the resolution to when you have to award.
Okay.
So let's say, let me back this up.
Yeah,
So
how would
let's
that
say the
work,
contract's
though?
done. We meet with our consultants. The way I envision that is, whomever the team from the district is, we all meet. I don't have to be there, but I'm happy to be. And then that's where you set up, you start talking about what's this gonna look like? What's your estimate on how long this will take? How long is gonna be your due diligence to do valuation? Is that a month, 2 weeks, 2 months? And then that way you'll start to get that sense of how things are gonna go from there. Because once you adopt your resolution, there'll be marketing going on, but I'm assuming we would want more than just that 60 days. And so he would put in that timeline, market starting in blank, do it for, I don't know, say 6 months, then at the end of the 6 months, adopt a resolution to sell, promote through the remainder of 60 days, something like that. That's what I was envisioning, so that everybody's comfortable with what that timeline and the process is.
So before we go into that specifically, do you want to say weekly or bi-monthly?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we had weekly updates. I had weekly updates.
Did-
written
was it
down.
Yeah, weekly. Well,
I was just
I'd like
very.
weekly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think weekly, and I mean, he can always, 4 weeks, I'm making this up, if there's nothing to report, there's
Right,
nothing to
there's
report.
nothing.
But rather than wait a whole month for what's going on, I think weekly is,
And then,
Warranted.
I mean, my thought is it's for the duration of the contract, right? If there's
Yeah, he's gonna give weekly updates.
Okay.
And there might not be anything.
Right, okay. And then, there was a suggestion about specific things that we wanted to report on. Do we feel strongly that that's needed, or do we want to trust that between Brian and Mulhall, that they will get the information that they need, or do we want to specify?
On the report? No.
no, that's fine.
I'm good with her answer too.
Okay. That's good for everybody?
That's fine.
All right. Anything else on communication? Just trying to look at, make sure I'm not missing anything else. Was there anything else in communication that people felt they needed in the contract?
Only with regards to communication.
Only a communication, and then we
Okay.
can just, because I feel like that was the one that was pretty universal. Everything else, people can jump in on.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anything else? Outside of communication?
Anything outside of communication?
Yes.
Oh, I have a few. So, under termination, under paragraph 17, my only thought was, what was the thought process? Let's say we decide to terminate this, okay, for convenience. Why would we give a 30, like, why couldn't it just be like up to 30 days? Because maybe we would say we didn't want him for the full 30 days to stay on for some issue.
And are you assuming you're getting a refund?
No, but I mean, I'm not,
You can, that's fine.
I mean,
You wanna
I'm not
terminate-
assuming,
That was my biggest concern, was one, also winding up. Usually you want to have a little time to wind up, so if he's got documents that he's got under their confidential, he's supposed to get back to us and stuff, so, but we can make it shorter.
I mean, I just think you always want that. I mean, maybe we don't want the option to make it shorter. Maybe we just think, hey, we're not going anywhere with it. We decide not to sell, something like that. Or something terrible happens, right? I mean, I don't want to put anything bad out into the universe, but I don't want to have the option. I would want to have the option that we could cease it immediately, you know what I mean? Anything confidential return to us and we can stop, not
Yeah,
instead of
it'd be
having to
shorter.
engage for another 30 days if there's nothing to engage about.
Yeah, he wouldn't do anything, right? You're
Right.
mostly paying upfront anyway, but yeah, absolutely, if that's what you want.
I would suggest I'd like that, you know,
7 days? Or
Up
just
to-
upon notification?
yeah, up to 30 days, you know, up to 30 days, you know, we could say we're gonna terminate your services, but we,
No less than.
you know, no less, that's perfect. I just don't wanna have that where we have to stay in for 30 days if we don't need it.
No worries,
Okay, thanks.
perfect.
Well, we weren't implying, though, that if we gave him 30 days, we would get any money back either.
No, I mean, I just am saying.
There
what if-
wasn't any implication that we weren't implying that if we gave 30-day notice, that we would get any of the funds back at all. It's all
Gotcha.
still a rock-solid consolidated fee.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, under Exhibit A, services, because I really had an aha moment when you spoke last time about maybe it's not the right time to sell. That wasn't even something I considered. But I would like that to also be in there to advise us on the timing.
Oh, you want specifically in time, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, because that was something I was like, oh, never even went there.
Okay.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think,
Yeah.
like on the timing, and he might say something like, hey, because of X, Y, and Z, I would advise that you would wait
Right.
till this, you know,
Right.
the
Big
spring of
event or
28,
something,
I
yeah.
don't know, I'm just, who knows? But, you know, have that evaluation in there, because I thought that was really key when you had mentioned that maybe they're gonna come back and say, it's so low right now, who knows what's going on? I wouldn't advise that you do it. So I just thought that was kind of key, coming into that.
Everybody all right with that?
Yeah, I think it's in his valuation paragraph, but it would
think so.
be
I'll double
ideal
check.
to blow it, like,
It's
not
not,
blow it,
I
but
was with
bring
you,
it
I
up.
felt like it was in there, it's not specific to that, but I feel like the language talks about timing of the real estate to maximize favorable marketing
Yeah.
cycles and providing public partnership options or other creative finance, but, I mean.
Further
if-
emphasizing it.
If we
Yeah,
feel like.
makes-
It's good because if
Yeah.
it's clear to some and not clear to others,
Right,
that's
right.
fine, no worries,
Okay,
100%.
so we'll add that in the valuation and analysis section? Is that right?
Yes,
Is that
that's
what
what I was
you're
thinking. Yep.
Okay.
And then we talked about the marketing plan, like with, I think that was great, just to have where are, you know, where will this be marketed, so we have clear expectations. As we might say, we're gonna market it, but there might be, you could market it in many different manners.
Yeah. Anything else?
just to that point, just a plan that actually itemizes, you know, each of the different tactics and just so that
Right.
it's clear and just managing expectations, I think.
I mean, and I guess if we're asking as part of the process for him to present that marketing, that would be also a good time for us to reinforce and be able to say that very clearly. I think one of my points was just, you know, I looked at it as this service is also helping to relieve some time and that Brian Stachek has usually put in to helping to put this whole process together and reach out to different, you know, government agencies or land trusts or anybody else who might be potentially interested. And I was hoping that the point of hiring and using this person's services would be to help relieve him of those kinds of duties so that he can continue to do all the other awesome, great things that he does to keep this ship running.
We're gonna hear about them tonight, I think.
And we are gonna hear about them, and I know that there's a lot of them that do keep him busy. So that, I was kind of looking at it, in some ways, I feel like I was getting a little granular even in my thought process of that, and I know that that's not necessarily what the contract needs to do, but I think as long as we're clear that when we come to that marketing plan part with Mohal, that we'll be able to get into that little bit more of the details in the grass, in the weeds of what those expectations look like.
I was thinking the same thing. I think that's part of the conversations that Brian will have with them to talk about what we need, and if we want to be a part of those conversations, certainly we can.
Yeah.
But I think if we go so micro in the
Yeah,
contract,
I
it
agree.
gets
And
almost
yep,
constricting to
Yeah.
us.
Yep.
So, Okay.
as
Yeah.
long as they understand
I
that
do
we'll be
think that's a
expecting detail.
conversation that the board should have, though, because I hear kind of two things, like, and this is probably for down the road,
Yeah.
but I would envision him coming to a meeting and presenting his marketing plan to you guys.
Yeah.
I actually don't envision Brian and I meeting with him.
Okay.
And going
Separately.
over all the details,
Yeah.
unless the board would like that. I mean, we're happy to do that.
No, I guess when I said that, I was thinking more about after that initial proposal and discussion and
Yeah.
expectations have been set up, right? Like after that, I imagine now it's gonna start getting into the weeds about who you're contacting with, so that
Right.
communication then can be shared with us,
Yep.
is what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I think either way that you approach it, I think it is a situation where once we hear what his expertise, his experience is, and he brings that to the table, if there's something that we feel, I mean, that's where I do value Brian and, mostly Brian Sachek from having been through the process before with the bid proposals, like if there's something that could be taken off his plate as part of it, if that's not been included, I'd like to have that
Yeah, good.
included.
Yeah, just to be clear, we're not doing that. That's why we're hiring a real estate consultant to do
Right.
that work. Like,
Right,
just to
exactly.
make sure, I don't want there to be any confusion.
No, I know.
that-
But in times before, when we said, can you reach out to government, land
Right.
use agency, I'm thinking of all those. I mean, that was a lot of
That-
research,
yeah.
and I would like
Right.
the marketing, the broker consultant to do that.
They should be doing that, right?
Yes,
That's what
exactly.
I want to clear up. because
Exactly.
We have no.
Right.
Right, no,
We're not doing that.
Thank
We
you.
can't.
No,
yeah.
We can do that if you guys would like.
No.
but
No,
To
that's
me,
why
it feels
we're
like
not
that's
on
why
this
we're hiring the
That's
real estate
right, yeah.
consultant.
Correct.
So that's why I feel like down the road, you're going to want him here.
Yeah.
He needs to be able to articulate to you guys what the plan is and
Yeah.
how he's going to market it and all of that.
Absolutely. Okay,
Other concerns, ideas, suggestions?
those were my main ones.
You good?
Yeah,
Good,
Yeah.
good?
yeah.
Okay, next step, so I guess here's the question, for timeline purposes, just so that we're clear on where we're going with this. Obviously, James, you'll work on getting us a new draft of this. How long do you think before we can, I guess, before I ask that question, do we feel like, James, get it together, send it to Mohall and start this process? Are we comfortable with that?
Yes. In case he has any changes that he wants to come back to us with.
So we wouldn't review it before he sent it?
That's the
That's the
important thing.
question.
So do you guys want to review it again
You're
before or
fine.
not?
I'm fine with it. I think we need to get the, moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's why we're doing it now.
That's fine. Do you want me to, I'm just double checking, send it to Tim and to Brian at all, or just, like after I make it, just say, here it is, just one last.
I mean, if
Red
you
line
guys just
strikeout
want to
kind
make
of deal?
sure that what we asked for tonight is on there, I
Yeah.
guess would be the only reason, but not to really pick through it anymore.
Yeah.
Just make sure the changes are there and, yeah, send it to him.
Okay, so so it shouldn't take me long. I'll have that to you probably no later than Wednesday of this week. I should be able to get this turned around to you in red line strikeout and a clean
Nice.
version for you.
Perfect.
Thank you, James.
And then we'll get that to Mohall. And maybe we'll be able to get this on our next agenda. We'll see how quickly that acceptance and all that.
Yeah, he was there.
Okay. All right. Good?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right. James,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
James.
Thank you.
Stay warm.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
All right. It is time for the Brian Stashak show. Okay, so our first item for discussion, actually our second item for discussion is our strategic plan update, goal 5 update, resource effectiveness and efficiencies. Throw it over to Brian Waterman and Brian Stashak.
Yeah, I'll just do sort of some background here, as I always do with strategic plan goals, but once again, this is the 5th month now in a row that we've taken a deeper dive into one of our 5 goals. This is all traces back to June of 2022, when the LT Board of Education adopted this current comprehensive strategic plan. That followed a whole year of community engagement, where we looked at past performance, core values, and anticipated future needs of the district. As we know, we have 5 goals: student growth and achievement, learning environment supports, high-quality diverse staff, family-community partnerships, and resource effectiveness and efficiencies. You guys play a really critical role in this process each year by looking at each of the 5 goals, the strategies and the priorities that are aligned with the goals of our school community. Obviously, now that you guys have been through this 4 times, and this is the 5th one, you know that Brian's going to go over the metrics, the aligned strategies, the highlights of progress. We're going to acknowledge some areas of improvement. And as we say all the time, there's never any secrets with our strategic plan. Everything that you're seeing tonight, it has been and will continue to be housed on our strategic plan website. I think the difference tonight over the previous 4 goals is that this is really the first of about 2 straight months of Goal 5 update, because what he's going to talk about tonight is just the goal strategies and some of the metrics. But in a couple weeks, you guys are going to hear the FY25 audited financial statements, which is that's a significant moment each year. And then in March, he will come back with the 5-year financial forecast, which is another significant data point that the board uses each year. So basically, over the next month to 2, we're going to get a really clear picture of where we are financially, facilities, and technology as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian, who serves as our goal champion for Goal 5.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman. Well, good evening, everyone. And so, as Dr. Waterman mentioned, what's really important, I think, about Goal 5 is there are two strategies that we have. And by the way, I'm still recovering from the flu over the holidays, so I may be coughing a little bit as I start talking. I apologize in advance. I'm getting there, though. As I said, it takes me longer the older I get to fully recover from this. But so what's really important, I think, about Goal 5 is there's 2 strategies, 12 and 13, which we'll dive into. But one of the sets of metrics that we look at in Goal 5 is how the district is performing financially. And that's really important for 2 reasons. Number 1 is we want to make sure that we have the financial resources available to us to meet our strategies, both 12 and 13, the technology side and the facility side of Goal 5. However, the other important component of that is that when it's all said and done, all of the costs associated with Goals 1 through 4 also have to run through that same budget. And so that metric to me is also extremely important. We measure it, but the goal is to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of the goals and have the financial resources to do that. And so that's why we look at, as Dr. Waterman said, we look at the metrics in here that we have from the State Board of Education for our annual financial report. We look at that 5-year financial history as well as the 5-year projection to see where we're going, where we're headed, and what that looks like, and will we have those resources available. So that's going to be clear here a little bit more when I talk about the metrics coming up. So I just kind of wanted to color that background for you in terms of why that financial piece isn't exactly one of the strategies, but is included in my thought process when I look at what's going on in the district and the financial side of it. Any questions on that? Okay. So just kind of talking about a little bit, again, I've kind of just touched on a little bit on this. The district has a long history of solid, excellent financial management, and that is due to this board, to prior boards, prior administration, and when I came here, the district was already set up in terms of financial success, and I looked at that as my goal to maintain that financial success, and I believe, I feel as though we're currently doing that, and we're going to continue that as we go forward. And so we'll talk a little bit about, for example, the rating that we have from ISB. When we have our annual financial report, State Board of Education gives us a financial profile score the top score being a 4. We've never not had a 4. Now, you don't have to have a 4 to be in the top category. And as we've spent down some of our fund balance, maybe that drops down a little bit, but I don't believe we're going to fall out of that top rating. We probably, I'm confident we'll still be in that top rating. And so those are the types of things we look at. Are we also managing the finances in the district so that we aren't getting ourselves to a position where we are deficit spending? And when I say deficit spending, we did that last year, but we did that intentionally with the projects that we had going on. We don't ever want to get into a position where we are deficit spending to meet our ongoing everyday obligations, salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, all of those types of things. If you get to that point, then tough decisions have to be made. And so certainly, I don't want to get to that point, but we do have to manage that and take a look at that every year and see where we're at. And so, again, we're looking at some of those financial points. With that, though, with Goal 5, we also recognize that there is a need to continue to update our facilities. And during the pandemic, we recognized that we were probably behind other districts in terms of where we were with technology. And so, really, those two needs are what brought about Goal 5 here in looking at how do we maintain the facilities going forward, and how do we maintain our technology and technology infrastructure in the district so that we're not falling behind again. And so that's kind of what we're gonna talk about here. And I'll give you those on the next slide, the two strategies that we have. There are two strategies, as I talked about, 12 and 13, which go along with all of the other goals. And strategy 12 is to improve technology, infrastructure, and access for students, staff, and families. And then strategy 13 is to upgrade our facilities to better meet 21st century interests and needs of students and staff. I want to tell you in tonight's presentation, we're going to really focus more on the facility side. And the reason we're going to do that is, you may recall, we just adopted a new 5-year technology plan. So we're just underway with that plan at this point. So as we move through that technology plan, we will, of course, bring more updates to the board on that. But seeing as we just wrapped that up, and we're still kind of in the process of wrapping up the construction projects that are related to Goal 5 and what we came out of this Phase 1 with, we're going to kind of focus more on that tonight. We'd be happy to answer any questions. And by the way, Ed Tennant is also works with me on Goal 5, because while I'm proficient in technology, I certainly do not have the knowledge that Ed has. And so Ed works. I'm sorry, Sean.
Who does?
Yeah, well, Ed does. And so Ed is an integral part of Goal 5, especially for that strategy 12, working with me on that. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge Ed's contributions to this also. But again, the focus of tonight isn't really to spend so much on the technology. We're happy to answer any questions on the technology side, but we want to focus more on that, on the facility side. And so if we go to the next slide, this is the rationale when we looked at, and I just kind of talked a little bit about that. When we looked at our facilities, we said, look, we have aging facilities. They aren't in bad shape. We maintain them, but there's a lot of work to be done on the facilities themselves. And a lot of those projects are not as exciting as the cafeteria and music space at South Campus, right? Those are HVAC systems. Those are roofing. So those types of projects that we have. And as part of that, as part of looking at this particular strategy, what we did was we had the architects go through and put together a facility study for us. So we have that facility study. That is part of the, I believe that's up on the website, right? With the 5-year plan.
Yep.
And so that information is up there as well. And so as we started to look at, and we'll get into that in just a little bit, we started to look at what improvements we felt we needed to make on this most recent bond sale. And then with the use of the fund balance, as we did on these projects, that information comes really in many ways directly from that facility study, because there were items in that facility study that said, here's where you are and here's where you kind of need to go. We also had input from the community, from students, from staff. We had all of that information, and that's how we arrived at where we did with those projects. And again, as I said, going back to the technology piece of it, that was really born out of that issue with COVID-19 and the pandemic, when we went to a remote learning situation. And like I said, I think Ed and his team were able to get us up and running. Ed, what was it, about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe, something along those lines?
I mean, when we first dismissed the remote learning
Yeah.
that spring,
Yeah,
that weekend,
Right.
We had 400 units deployed immediately.
yeah. And so we recognized at that point that was not a great spot to be in that moment in time, and saying, look, do we know our infrastructure can handle this? Do we have the technology to move this forward if we had to? And we did. We had to move it forward. And again, as I said, Ed and his team did a great job with this. But this is where we looked at this and we said, this is why these two strategies are important to Goal 5, in that we need to continue to essentially put financial resources toward both of these, especially in the technology area. Prior to what we're doing now with the 5-year forecast, we weren't spending a large amount of money on our technology. In fact, it was probably $300,000 to $400,000 a year, maybe. And now we're in the ballpark of anywhere from 1.2 to 1.5 million annually. And again, as needed. We're not just spending it to spend it, but based on that technology plan, we're updating all the infrastructure, obviously turning over machines that are being used by students, by staff, all of that. And so that's again why these became critical strategies to this goal. Yeah.
Will that be an ongoing cost, even though you said it's in addition to the machines, it's upgrading the infrastructure? Once that, I mean, I don't really understand it, so once the infrastructure is updated,
Yep.
will that be an every year thing to update the infrastructure? I guess that's my better question.
Yeah, to answer your question, the answer is yes.
Okay.
That will be an
It's a
ongoing.
continual, it's not
Right.
like, hey, we're updated, we're good for 5 years.
Right. It's one of those things where I've said, when from my seat, and I think Ed would confirm this, if you put something in that's technology related, whether it's infrastructure, it's network, it's even copiers.
Okay.
As you bring those in, if you have those for 5 years, in technology years, 5 years is forever and it's done.
Yeah.
So as we continue to roll these items through, I see that being an ongoing cost to the district for essentially forever, as long as technology continues to evolve. So Ed, I think you'd agree with that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And by using this strategy, we're cyclically replacing elements of the infrastructure, elements of the equipment, so that they're not all hitting at one time.
Right.
Right, so it's like a rolling plan of
Yeah.
a copier this year, scanner the next, or whatever it might be.
Right.
Okay.
And that 1.2 million that I talked about to 1.5 million, that also, besides the infrastructure, that also includes, Chromebooks for students, all of that sort of thing.
Got it.
Computers for teachers. So, because those have to be replaced, again, those are pretty much on about a 5-year cycle, I think, Ed, that's 4-year cycle. And so those, right, exactly. Yeah.
Did you guys explore for any grants out of there too, or no?
We did not have any technology-related grants. This has been all district funded, so, yeah.
We had from the COVID funds though, right? Yeah.
The ESSER funds,
For the
right?
relief funds we did.
We did. We did use some, I'm sorry, yes, we did. I'm thinking of the ongoing part of that.
Right.
At the time, we did,
Right.
yeah. We did use some of our ESSER money for that. And we have used in the past, and I think we still are, some Title I money for the students that's available to us to utilize for those grants. But again, it's not a large sum of money in terms of what we're seeing here. Typically, our Title I is about $150,000 a year, which is based on need for students, low-income students generally. So we're about $150,000 a year. So, and we only put a small portion of that toward them, but whatever we can, we will.
Right.
Okay.
That'll work.
Ed, I just want to make sure if you speak, that Mike can pick it up.
Oh.
But,
Yeah.
Maybe come back there.
So the only other add-on I would put to that is, we do also avail ourselves to certain E-rate
Great. That's true.
funding
I forgot about that. Thank you.
that is available.
Okay.
So, you used to have category one of these ongoing kind of your telecom costs. We do get some support through that, and our participation in the Illinois Century Network is in large part funded through that. And then, every 5 years or so, there's a pocket of money that we're eligible for some of our bigger infrastructure elements. And so when we did the big project with switching and in the closets and in the cores and all that, we use that to upgrade some of that equipment. And then we get, up to 40% of a particular budget that we expend those funds on. And then we're not eligible for the next 4 years or so, right? It's every 5 years there's a pocket that you can dip into.
Thank you.
We actually, was it last year? We received money, or 2 years ago?
It's going on 3 now.
Is it going on 3? And I think that was about close to $300,000, wasn't it, at the
Yeah,
time?
3 years,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
And wait, while Ed, sorry, while you're out there, Ed. And what do we do again with our Chromebooks after our students are done with that?
So, the first ones, like, these are the first ones that have been in use for 4 years. So as the seniors were graduating, we actually have been collecting those back, and we've been using them for a variety of purposes. They serve in our loaner pool, so that when a student comes in and has a broken device, we can get them another device right away while we work on theirs, or in some cases, the loaner is better than what they're turning into us. Sometimes they serve as parts donors, right? And so we save some costs on repairing other units by pulling elements from some of the ones. You crack a screen, the keyboard's still good, we can grab that keyboard and replace the keyboard somewhere else. And we do a bunch of those types of things. We use them in testing scenarios. We're one of the few districts locally that when we offer one of the large stakes testings, ACT, SAT, that are online, we make devices available even to students that aren't our students that come in on those days to do testing, so that they can continue their test in an electronic fashion. If that's how they started and they're having problems with the device they brought from home or from their home school. We use them for all kinds of other projects and experimentations. We are using them now in some of the places to do drive scanning stations for attendance places. We're using them to drive displays in other places for presentations, so that we're not tying up a full-blown computer if what's being displayed is just web accessible content. And so we make a lot of use out of that. And then really bluntly, after 4 years, they're pretty well beaten.
How much that, thank you.
Right, not a lot of residual.
Yeah, I kind of wondered, like, long-term at some point, is it, like, are you backing up of that equipment, or do we recycle it? Like, then does it go back
Yes,
into
if
a
we can
return
no longer
program?
use it, we do turn it over for environmentally responsible recycling.
Okay.
And there are also times when we'll give a quantity of equipment into like PC repair class. And then they will rip them apart to figure out how these things are put together, and then they will try to put them back together. And if they don't, no skin off anybody's nose, because
Right.
it wasn't a resource that anybody was expecting
last
for.
life.
But yes, none of this just ends up in a dumpster.
Great.
We bring it across to environmentally responsible, and then they certify the destruction of the devices.
Great.
And they'll salvage whatever they can out of them, all the little components.
Thank you. Awesome.
Good. The other part I wanted to mention about technology, which is becoming more of an issue almost every day, and that is security. We are seeing more and more people out there acting in ways of which they're trying to access your student data systems, financial software systems, and Ed and I are constantly having conversations about this. Even as simple as an email coming through that says to, like, somebody in the business office, one of my staff members that
Right.
said, "Oh, hey,
yeah.
click on this link, and by the way, here's the invoice that you owe us," right?
Yeah.
And it's a constant battle on that technology side with security, and so that's another part that we always have to kind of keep in mind on the technology piece as well. So
So do we have to pay like a third-party service to help protect
Yes,
against
there-
that kind of stuff?
We have
then?
products, we have services,
Okay.
and we have subscriptions to both.
Mhm.
So there
Okay.
are elements that help protect the endpoint devices. There are other elements that are looking at the actual transmission of those emails, for example, as they're coming and going. And then there's just network monitoring that's going on, not only by our team, but other organizations.
And I do, as part of our property casualty insurance, we do have coverage on any sort of a cyber liability attack, that sort of thing. So hopefully it
Yeah.
happens.
Let's hope not, but
That's,
yeah.
that's the goal.
How about, I'm gonna keep asking, because I do kind of get excited about this stuff when it just comes up, but how about like, AI, as far as like, you know, it's, what are we, do we have, I know some schools like have proprietary AI, programs that they
So-
will only, they kind of narrowly kind of constrict or control and have some kind of, I mean, how are we, or do we, and what are we thinking about with regard to how AI is?
So AI is a broad topic.
Yeah.
And it is one of those elements where everybody's got an AI angle. They-
I know.
Our new and improved, our
Yeah.
product now embeds AI.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, but what is it really doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so we look at it in a couple of different ways. One of the ways is anything that we do with personally identifiable information, student data, those types of things, we make sure that we are not using open platforms, right? We don't want to build somebody's large language model AI engine using our proprietary data. We don't want that information out about our students, our staff, our families, any of that. But there are ways that some of those engines can help us to, for example, write a better a goal for a 504 IEP document or something like that. And so you want to have some element and exposure to some of those. So we'll work with closed systems, and then you talked about the idea that it's out there all over the place. Our relationship with the Google and the students and the Chromebooks does afford us the opportunity to have them exposed to Gemini, for example. And so that's okay if you're learning about AI. You're just not using it to produce our work products around this table.
Or their work, too, right?
And so it's led to some very interesting and, I would say, energetic conversations
Very enthusiastic, I'm
with
sure.
our tech coaches who try to help guide our staff's usage of it. They've become pretty adept at a lot of the tools that are out there and can make good recommendations of what's an appropriate tool to use in what case. They help evaluate whether it's worth paying for something or not, and where we want to experiment and work through those. To the point where they've been out there presenting to their peers from other districts, other schools, at conferences and other events because of where we've been. The task force last year under Scott's leadership, from a curriculum perspective, came up with what everybody refers to as the traffic signal, which is just a red, yellow, green kind of a way that a teacher can communicate with a student, whether use of AI of any sort is appropriate for this assignment. And then there are expectations for the students, just like you would cite a source. If you took it from a book, you would reference what source you were using for your assignment or your project, and there are tools that help the students identify that as well and cite those instances of use. And so, just like the technology itself, it can be a means to an end, right? People are using the technology to write a paper. They don't really care about the technology, but they are really engrossed in writing a paper or composing music or digital arts or any of those types of things. So to them, the technology is a means to an end. But for other students, it is the end, right? They want to study the technology itself. And so there are students that are also interested in exploring that element as well.
Right.
And so we're trying to be responsible, respectful, ethical in all that we're doing and make sure that our students are exposed to it from that perspective, and our teachers have the tools that they need to present those topics in a way that's comfortable for them. And our teachers are all across the spectrum as well, whether they're comfortable or not comfortable with it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. It's not often we get to have that conversation about AI, and I know that this isn't the end of it all, but
No.
I do appreciate giving a little bit of time to that. Thanks, Ed.
No worries.
And I know we're a little bit off track anyway, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask it. SOPA, all of our technology is SOPA, so it's.
We're catching up on the
me with the-
documentation of that, but generally, when we approach a software solution, we look for applicability and make sure that it is one that we can get one of those agreements in place for.
And SOPA, correct me, because I'm not gonna get the acronym correct, just for everybody in case.
Student Online
Thank
Privacy
you.
and Protection Act.
So it's essentially a law that, or we have to make sure that our students' information isn't getting sent out.
Right. And that becomes a big issue in the entire marketplace because it's very true that if it's free, you're the payment, right? Your information, you're paying for it somehow. And so we have to be very careful with that.
Can I
Thanks.
piggyback on that?
Sure.
Because I was just looking up the acronym for Strategy 12. You have ISTE, the Illinois, I just
Yeah,
lost it.
that's the Illinois School.
International Society for
International
Technology
Society for
Education. Yep.
It's alphabet soup, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
ISTE standards, yes.
SD standards, thank you. Do we have, where do we fall within their standards? I don't know if we're gonna get to that eventually in this.
That's one of those,
Or is
it's
that,
a guiding set of principles.
okay,
So just like you would teach a course to the Illinois math standards or the science standards or the language arts standards, right? We look to those as a way to guide what we're doing. And it's one of those things that's always evolving as well. So we are always, we just like, when we're looking to implement a technology or a solution, we will reference that for best practices, for how best to utilize that sort of technology. And we also rely on our peers for some of that as well. Some of, we learn from the experiences of other schools and look to repeat their successes and not their struggles. And that happens to be that same sort of guiding principle. So we will look to those.
and we're gonna talk about like where we're.
It's not on
No,
the
it's not on
agenda
here,
for
okay.
today.
Okay. Okay, I just was curious.
Okay, any other questions? If not, as we're on this particular slide, for the next slide for this, we have a list basically of tasks here, right? And these tasks, we've determined are what we're gonna do on an annual basis essentially to make us successful in these strategies. Now, I'm not gonna read every one of these to you here, but what I can tell you is, as we looked at these and we developed these, of course, with my influence, the important part was, these are the things we have to do, but we also want to make sure, again, that we're maintaining that financial stability within the district. And that shows up in both sides here. And that is, for example, on the technology side, are we maintaining our technology plan following that, and are we doing so responsibly with the district finances? And then in strategy 13, it's the same thing when we're talking about the facilities. Are we continuing to upgrade these facilities? Are we setting aside and allocating dollars on an annual basis to complete these tasks to make ourselves successful in this goal 13? Now, what I can tell you is that the last couple of years, and I think everybody here already knows this, the last couple of years have been, in terms of projects, much larger than what we typically do. We had the bond sale, and then we use that fund balance. So as we talked about, that's about almost $47 million worth of projects. Now, going forward, what does that look like? Well, that probably looks like, in the absence of any other funding sources, we're probably $1 million to $2 million a year of projects. And that is provided that the budget, the operating budget will allow it, because from our prior conversations as well, the district has always operated that we're going to make sure we're funding all of our ongoing daily expenses first, and then if we have to move that capital outlay number, capital project number around, and the capital outlay expenses, those are different, not here, but we do that, and we move those dollars up and down depending on what we feel is available for the project. And the point there was always to make sure that we weren't necessarily going through a deficit spend, unless the board decided, yes, that's what we wanted to do in the case of last year. Okay? Any questions on any of these at all? Okay. Then we'll go on to the metrics, and I want to talk a little bit about these because they're important to what we're doing. And if you look on the far left-hand side there, the first three metrics are the fund balance to revenue ratio, expenditure to revenue ratio, and the operating capacity. So let me just talk a little bit about those. First of all three of those are the three main components that exist on the State Board of Education Financial Profile Score. There's actually 5 components, but the other 2 are based on borrowing and your short-term and your long-term borrowing power. So for us, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish with this, those 2 don't really make a whole lot of difference to us. It's really these 3 here. And again, these are the ones that are weighted the most in that ISB Financial Profile Score. So again, your fund balance to revenue ratio is simply when we look at the fund balance in all of our operating funds combined, compared that to our revenue, what percentage of that are we sitting at, right? And so as you look to the far right, we were looking to be a target of about 50%. And by the way, as Dr. Waterman mentioned earlier, I'm still waiting to have the updated numbers from the auditors for our FY25 year-end close. The hope is to have those within the next week and a half, and I'll be able to update these and bring those forward to you. That's why you're still looking at the 23-24 data here, and then our target 24-25. But again, as we've talked about, we've kind of targeted around, we want to be around 50% in that number, and that's where we've had those discussions. In 23 and 24, we were at 67.8%. We had a really good year in that 23-24 year, which was due to the corporate personal property replacement taxes. That number has come way down in terms of a revenue source. And we also know that our fund balance, we spent, what was it, what do we go, $16 million of our fund balance, if I recall, last year was what the board approved. So that number's going to come down. It's not going to be at that 67.8% number. We're going to be much closer to that 50% or maybe even a little less than that, as we talked about. But that's our target there. The expenditure to revenue ratio, what this simply means, that second one down, is are you spending within your revenue amounts, meaning that you have $100 million of revenue and you spent $99 million this year, so there was $1 million surplus, or you have $100 million in revenue and you spent $102 million and you have a $2 million deficit, right? Now, again, the difference there is the operating expenditures versus the capital expenditures. But it's something that I always have to take a look at and make sure that we are certainly not overspending on our daily operating expenditures. And so, the goal is to be about 98%. So if we had $100 million, we want to spend at least, roughly 98 million of that. And then we would anticipate a bit of a surplus, which always helps out with those capital projects going forward. And then finally, the operating capacity. What the operating capacity looks at is how many days can you actually operate without another essential dollar of revenue coming into the district, okay? And so it's interesting because some of that has been playing itself out with this delay from the Cook County property taxes, right? By the way, we have received property tax money. I think everybody's aware of that. The issue has not been fixed, but they've still been distributing money, so we'll at least take that for now. And so ultimately, for the 23-24 year, we could operate for about 273 days without any additional revenue coming in. The goal is usually around 210, but again, we were higher because those fund balances were higher. That number is going to come down.
I know that question was asked before, but that 273 is business, not school days?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So including in the summer,
Yeah.
obviously we still have to pay people that are working here.
Yeah, exactly. So, because we still have essentially salaries, but remember all of our certified and para salaries, we pay all of those out for the summer in May, so those are cleared off the books. So essentially, it's looking at what your average expenses are and how many days you would have to operate. The cash flow is a different conversation
Right.
about when the actual cash leaves. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So those are the three main, again, factors that I look at to say, okay, how is the district operating? And if we start to see some of those numbers change, that would, I don't want to say a red flag, but certainly would catch my eye and say, okay, let's see where we're at and what's going on here. All right. So far, we've been in great shape with all of those. Now we get into the plan itself, and we have really two metrics here to kind of measure where we are based on our facilities plan and then one on our technology plan. So we're looking at that. We're putting we're making a judgment to say, look, on this facilities plan, how much what's the plan worth? Let's say it's $150 million. Okay, well, we spent $46 million in the plan. Okay, so we're about a third of the way there, right? That's what we would kind of look at. Now that's constantly a moving target, because I can tell you what we have in terms of cost today, what we think the project would cost doesn't mean that's what it's going to cost next year or 2 years from now. So it is a moving target, but we still want to look at that and say, are we making progress toward that facilities plan? And so that's what we look at. We do the same thing with the long-range technology plan. So again, we adopted that last school year, and we are now looking at moving forward for the next 5 years. And so we will measure that every year. And again, we probably want to be about 20% every year going forward with that technology plan. The facilities plan is going to be much more difficult to maintain going forward. That's just where we stand because of the financial resources we have. So eventually that's going to fall off the percentage, and there's going to be much smaller increases to that percentage of fulfilling that plan. And so we look at both of those, and then we also look at two financial metrics. We say, how much money are we spending annually on our facilities, and how much money are we spending annually on technology? And so when you look at the building expenditure percentage, our goal is to be about 2 to 3.5% of our operating revenue. So if that was $100 million, we'd like to spend $2 to $3.5 million on building projects. Again, that's the goal. I can tell you that probably won't happen every year, but that's what we would like to be able to do. And again, we're measuring that by those financial statements and saying, okay, how much did we actually spend versus what we spent on our operating expenses? Now, I can tell you, this year's they're going to be skewed because of the amount of money that we've spent at $46 million, whatever the case may be. That's going to skew this number, and it's going to look great, but it's also going to we're going to be coming way back down. Same thing on the technology. Again, we're looking to be about 1.5 to 2.5% of our operating budget on technology. So again, about $1.5 million to $2 to $2.5 million, and that's where we've kind of consistently been. We've been about $1.2 million, 1.2%, as you see there. And again, I should go back. If you look at the 23-24 metric, that's 6.87%. Some of those are a little bit higher because we've been looking at some of those projects with the influx of dollars that we've had. So, and then of course, going back to the 21-22, you still see the 6.78, 6.4, but remember we had COVID dollars that we were utilizing for those HVAC projects where we added the air conditioning. We did the added the air conditioning at South Campus. We added the air conditioning here at the field house when we reworked all of those air handling units. So that's why these numbers are a little bit elevated over those prior years, because we had more money available to us to be able to utilize for projects. And on those HVAC projects, we also did some deficit spending there, which was approved by the board also.
So when you say that the goal is 2 to 3.5%, we probably will never be there, because if we take that money that we got from COVID off the table, because hopefully that's not going to happen again anytime soon,
Yeah.
in a normal 3, 4, 5, 6 year, there's going to be ebb and flows of
Right.
what we're spending money on, but
Right.
you're hoping that we can kind of average that out to that 2 to 3.5.
Right, if we could carve out, again, I'm using a $100 million
Yeah.
example because it's easy. If we could carve out $2 million a year for facilities projects, that would be great. that would meet the minimum of our target. If we have additional available, and we can look at that, you know, let's say in a year coming up, we have a surplus of $3 million. Well, in the future year, we can take a look at that. If the board decides, hey, let's take that $3 million and use that for one-time capital projects, that's a great use of that money, if that's what the board decides to do. But remember, as we go through time, our fund balance to revenue ratio is going to be potentially decreasing because the revenue is going to keep going up, so you have to keep growing the fund balance to maintain that percentage. So that's something we have to be aware of also if we want to maintain that 50%. Because if your revenue keeps going up, that's a good thing, but if your fund balance is staying the same, well, then that percentage is going to start dropping. Now, that's not awful, but it's just something to take a look at and be mindful of.
You know, this fund balance is always tricky for me, so.
And I know you like that.
I don't know if I like it, I
Yeah.
just am stressed by it. All right, so like when you say that, like if our revenue goes up,
Yeah.
we would need to be contributing to the fund balance
We
ideally.
would.
Okay. Okay, and as well, we're on fund balance, because I was gonna let you finish and then ask this question, but I had to come in there, so I apologize. But, when we talk about the fund balance, like there was a number of like 47% before we talked about?
Yeah, that's what, when we looked at, I think you're referring to what we talked about with the projects from last year.
Right, remember I was,
did.
so is that the 47%?
It was about 47.5.
Right, so that's the fund balance to revenue ratio that we're talking about?
That's it.
I feel like
That
that's
was
an
an
aha
estimate,
moment.
right?
That was an estimate.
Yeah.
That-
Right, but that was like an aha, so that's what that number refers to.
Correct.
It's all coming together.
Yes.
6 years,
Yeah.
5 years, what about, I'm nailing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and again,
Making it happen.
to Dr. Waterman's point, that's an estimate
Okay,
from what we knew at the time. So I obviously will get a pretty good look.
but that's what we compare that to.
Right, that's right.
Okay, I never really knew what we compared it to, it was just a percentage.
Yep.
And we didn't want it to be lower than that, and at 50% was ideal.
Yep.
Okay, I'm there, thank
Yeah.
you.
But we'll know in a couple weeks what the most
But it
relevant,
actually
really,
up-to-date
really
number
went.
is.
Right,
Yeah.
really,
But
really
that's
went.
what that's all tied to.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. And there will still be, so we'll have a pretty good picture of where we stand. Well, we will know where we stand at the end of FY '25. However, there's still dollars that are being paid out in FY '26 on these projects as well. So we're gonna have to factor that in and look at all of that also. And that's why we said we'll smaller projects is coming this summer. We'll take a pause, we'll reset, see where we are, and then kind of go from there. Okay?
But you guys probably remember, I think that was one of the first meetings of the new board last spring. We amended the budget and we're projecting a $3.2 million deficit due to the insurance claims.
Yeah,
We came back a month or two later and amended it down to 2.2 million.
Right.
So in the next couple of weeks, we'll find out what that number actually is.
right.
That was, again, that was all projections last spring, but
Yeah.
now we will know we were X number in deficit.
Right.
Or whatever.
Right. And like I said, we're working with the auditors. I think we're gonna be on target, I think is where we're gonna be. Let's put it that way. So maybe a little bit better, but they're still working through the final numbers at this point. So I don't wanna,
Yep.
yeah, make any promises or say anything, and then you say, hey, wait a minute, I thought you said.
Yeah, right.
So we'll look at that. So,
hold it to that.
any other questions on the metrics at all? Okay,
I just feel like it all came together for me. I really appreciate it.
that's good.
Yeah. Like it all, it was like, I don't know, have we seen, I think this is such a helpful metric, like seeing it with a different perspective, so
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you for like explaining
Sure.
it as a first grade level. I
No,
really
not at
appreciate
all.
that.
Great. So again, these are the financial components,
Sounds
again,
good.
that we look at. We look at the auditors, they issue a clean opinion, meaning that there aren't any findings, there aren't any major issues in the district as far as financial controls. Again, we want to maintain that financial recognition category on the Illinois State Board of Education on their financial profile score, and that's part of the annual financial report. And so we'll be pulling that data together here shortly, again, with the FY25 audited financial statements. Of course, we know that the district had and maintains that AAA stable rating from S&P for both of our recent bond sales, and that's directly attributable to the work that goes into all of this. Some of it's out of our control, like the ability of the community to continue paying property taxes and all that sort of thing. So that's also helpful too, but a lot of it has to do with how we manage the finances in the district and what they see over, 5 to 10 year history of how are you guys doing? Are you deficit spending? Are you not? Where are you at? So those are all good things. And then, of course,
Brian, if I could, I mean, that's
Yeah.
really an important factor, because that, that means if we borrow money, what we have to pay it out at.
right,
And the higher the rating, the lower amount we have to, so that's.
right.
Yeah, you put that over a 10-year bond or a 20-year bond, I mean, it's a lot of money, so it's, hats off that, we're there and
It is.
staying there, because
Yeah.
that means a lot.
Yeah, and again, that was established before I was here. I was sweating it out for about 10 years because I came in right at the time, right after the last bond sale in
The grant,
13,
yeah.
14. And the prior business director said to me, well, this is we're AAA rated, make sure you keep that 10 years from now. And I'm like, oh, God. So I was sweating that one out for about 10 years.
Sure did.
So I'm
And
glad.
now you've got to breathe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
We celebrated.
And so we're going to obviously continue to do those things
Yeah.
for the next bond sale, to make sure that the district stays in that AAA rating. And exactly, Sean, to your point, that AAA rating, there aren't many school districts in the state of Illinois, public school districts, that have a AAA rating. And the importance of that is exactly what you said, and that is we're able to command lower interest rates
Right.
on our borrowing because of that AAA rating. So that's great.
Right.
And then, of course, we always want to continue to operate with our budgets in a manner in which we are not deficit spending, and so we've been doing that. Unfortunately, last year, as we talked about, we had that issue with the health insurance that came up, and so that's the one area of the budget that is not always as predictable as other areas. And so we'll talk a little bit more about the implications of what happened finally there this year. But I can tell you that based on the amended cost, now this does not encompass all of financial operations, but on that amended cost that I had to the budget, I think we had initially budgeted, about $7.6 million, if I remember correctly, and we were way through that. And I think we ended up around 9.6, which is where I moved that budget to. I think we were almost right on target in terms of where we ended up. So that one was that cost was about $3 million more than what it was the prior year. So that's a big jump.
And do we, and I might be getting ahead of it here, but do we have an indication as to why yet? Because I know at the time you still weren't sure.
Yeah.
Or even thinking about looking at maybe not self-insuring and going outside. Or
Yeah. That's an interesting topic, and I just had some updated information on this. So when we look at those costs that are related to the medical insurance, high claimants is something that drives the cost. And what I mean by that, those are severe medical issues. Oftentimes, they are more than 1 year. And so those are certainly driving some of that cost up. The other issue, as we're addressing, is the pharmaceuticals. Those continue to become a higher percentage of our cost in the medical insurance every year. And so we're also looking at that and addressing some of that. And so matter of fact, we have a meeting with the district insurance committee next week, I think it is. And so we're talking about ways to continue looking at controlling some of that cost. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to bring back a 15% increase. The board doesn't, I don't want a 15% increase and the staff doesn't want a 15% increase. So we're going to look at ways to try to mitigate that going forward as much as we can. Although last year we ended up a little over 10, I think it was around 10.6 if I remember correctly. So that wasn't as bad as what we thought, but we're still looking for ways to mitigate that. And the way that you do that is to arrest that medical trend by slowing what your costs are growing at. And so that's the important part. So we're still looking at that. We did look at, we talked about the possibility of working with an insurance pool. I have looked into that. I did not necessarily think it was as valuable at the moment. And it's interesting because one of the pools we were talking about, this is what I've heard. I don't have any of this data, but I've heard that their increase for next year is about over 15%. So now I don't know that for sure. I've heard that from other member district business managers who are in the pool. And so when you look at that, it's unfortunate, but insurance is just so unpredictable, is the problem. And so either way you go, you're gonna have good years and you're gonna have not so good years. And it's just the hard part of being in that business.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so that's what we, like you said, that was the one area of the budget we looked at, and so we'll bring some more information back to the board on that. The good news is I don't see any dramatic increases right now, based over what we saw last year. So that's good news. Maybe we'll sort of level off.
Yeah.
I'd like them to go down.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay,
Maybe not.
so let's just kind of jump into, again, just a recap of the projects that we've done over the last couple of years. And so the Phase 1 projects, we had anticipated a total cost of about $46.6 million. That is all inclusive of the project cost, the architect fees, asbestos consulting fees, asbestos removal, all that. So that was what we anticipated was the total. Now, I still have to reconcile all of that, and we know that we're still going to have some additional change orders coming forward to the board on those projects. So the architects are in the process of working on that. And so once we get that information, we'll bring it back to you. So there's still a reconciliation that even has to happen with this. And so basically what we were doing is, as far as the funding sources go, we anticipated about $28 million, $27 million of bond sale, and another $1 million of interest income on that $27 million, about $28 million. And then we had fund balance reserve that we talked about utilizing of about $18.6 million, which was transferred from the Ed Fund and the O&M Fund over to the Capital Projects Fund. And so that's how we ended up funding these projects that we currently have. And of course, we still have other projects going on right now as well. We have we're still wrapping up the HVAC work here at North Campus. That'll be finished up. So some of that project we're again still paying out this coming year. We also have the softball field project going on. Not part of this because that was part of a grant, but still something we have to factor in here as we're going forward. And so as we talked about here, that $46.6 million this is where the funding came from, essentially, for these projects. We do not have any additional funding sources right now, other than our 2% or whatever we talked about going forward. So again, that makes this a little bit more challenging as we go forward to finish up some additional projects. Any questions on that? Okay. Then we'll go on just quickly the highlights of the Phase 1 projects. We know about the new cafeteria at South Campus. By the way, that facility has been well received. I mean, just everybody loves it. Quest, the new food service, they love it. I think all the feedback has been great. So, and when you walk in there, you just think to yourself, wow, what a tremendously great facility for the district. So that's good. Same thing for the renovation of the existing, the old cafeteria into the new music wing at South Campus. That also is a gorgeous facility as well, and the same reviews on that also. So the washrooms, when you think about what they were before and what they are now, it's night and day.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably great, and again, great feedback on those as well. As we're talking about improvement of accessibility within the South Campus facilities, so we're working on obviously some of those items that were part of this particular project. And of course, we also have, when we talk about like the elevator here, we're renovating the elevator here at North Campus, some of the walkways and things at South Campus, and so those were all part of this. And the addition of the elevator at South Campus as well. So those were all part of those accessibility improvements. We had the pool and field house light replacement, which also, by the way, I have to tell you, also extremely well received. The lights in the field house and the pool were not very good. The new lights, very good.
Much better, yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay,
So
good.
also very well received. Not a big part of the project in terms of dollars, but you'd be surprised at how much that makes a difference to people who work in those
Right,
locations.
right.
And
We had somebody come and speak about that
Yeah.
a couple years back.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we did.
And
That's
I
right.
think
Yeah.
there was also some environmental benefits to that as well, right? A lot
Yep.
less energy will be.
Correct. Yeah, those are
Long-term benefits of it as well.
right. Those were old sodium lights that we had in there, and now these are all LEDs. So they're using much less energy, which is great. Again, South Campus, G-Wing and D-Wing roof replacements, those coincided with the renovation of the music space, and then, of course, whatever we needed to renovate that tied into the new cafeteria as well. So those were part of that. And then, of course, the addition of the air conditioning at the South Campus E-Wing. So really, most of that facility at this point is air conditioned with the exception of a few spaces in the H-Wing. And that's something we obviously can address at a future time. But really, most of that facility is air conditioned at this point. And then interior and exterior door replacements at both campuses. And if you look, some of the exterior doors here look so much better than what they did. And then there was a lot more interior doors that were related to our life safety list from the last time that we replacing fire doors inside and some of the exterior doors at South Campus as well. So that is just a sort of refresher of what we did on that first phase. Any questions on any of that?
A couple others to share.
Yes.
The next slide.
Right.
That's also part
And
of phase one.
I kind of divided these up by what we started in '24 and then now what we were doing in '25. And so in addition to that, we have the North Campus classroom modernization, ceiling and lighting, air handler replacement, addition of air conditioning. So now this project was started last year. We did so it's on the west and the south side of the main building here. And so all of those classrooms, corridors, the lighting was replaced, in the classrooms and the corridors, HVAC replacement, and so now all of those facilities, in addition to that, a new cooling tower, chiller here in the facility, and so all of those classrooms on the third and second floor are now climate controlled, air conditioned, heated, of course. That project was scheduled to take 2 summers, and so the second part of that project will come up this summer, and the first floor and the lower level, it'll be essentially the same construction, same project, just with those 2 lower floors. And so that will be finished, hopefully before, 3 hours before we start the school year in August. But
Kinda like
we
last summer.
were pretty close. We
We were down to the wire.
were pretty close last summer.
Yeah.
And so those,
Even though they're working on 26, that was still budgeted from the previous.
yes.
Yeah.
So in this current budget, the FY '26 budget, I have money allocated for these projects.
Okay.
But the problem is going to be most of that 26, what we do coming up this summer, a good portion of that, and there's only, I want to say it's about $2.5 million that's still owed on that project. Most of that invoicing is going to come into FY '27 because we're going to cross that July 1st threshold. They're still going to be invoicing us for finishing the project. And then, so we're even going to go into FY '27 with some of that cost.
But it's pre-budgeted, is what I'm saying.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then, of course, also same thing here, the way the washrooms look here. Those are done, so there will be no additional washroom renovations here this summer. So those look outstanding as well. And then, of course, the main campus, the elevator, which has been, I think, really a lot more reliable than what it was before. You know, the only issue we're going to have, I think, this summer is that lower level is going to be under construction, and the accessibility of that elevator might be an issue. It'll be running, but it's going to be tough to access it from that lower level in the first floor because there's going to be construction equipment all in the hallway area, and that hallway is going to be
In the summer, you mean?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where we don't usually have a ton of students using
We
it that way.
have moved all of our academic summer school courses to South Campus for
Okay.
next year.
Great.
Or I say next year, I'm sorry.
summer.
This summer, summer of '26.
Okay.
So all of those have been moved over there. We will still have summer school classes, summer camps, learn to swim, that'll be here at North Campus,
Yeah.
but that's across the street.
Okay.
So everything else will be all the academic programs will be at South Campus. And then,
Does the renovation of the elevator make it go any faster?
it does. That was
Wow.
one of the main,
Okay. Because you would definitely be late for class if you had to take it.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I was privileged enough to have to ride it when I had the foot surgery, and yeah, it reminded me of like.
Yeah, they actually tell us it went from 50 feet per minute to 200 feet per minute.
Yeah.
About
Four times as fast?
Yeah.
Sears Tower at this point. How fast it is. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We
And
might
we,
all
and
have
we
to
know
try it
long
out.
term, we need to get an elevator on this side of the building.
Well, I was gonna
We
say,
need- we-
just having
we
that
dual.
one is not
not
enough,
enough.
and
Yeah.
it's not.
Aside from just like, we have
Truly
accessibility needs here at North
Yeah.
Campus.
Yeah, I know. Because even where that
lot
one
of
is right
projects.
now is not,
Yep.
a really great spot.
Right.
So again, the only portion of that project that's left is just those first floor and lower level that'll be finished up this summer.
Okay.
And then we'll be moving on. Okay, so this is just a quick look at sort of where we have spent the dollars in terms of, we have these 5 categories, right, that we've talked about, that we've looked at: the modernization of classrooms, additional collaborative spaces, accessibility to life safety upgrades, improvements to the athletic wellness facilities, and the replacement of HVAC mechanicals and the additional air conditioning. And so if you look at this here, the dollars that we have are a breakdown of what we estimated with the architects by these 5 categories. This is inclusive of architect fees, the asbestos consulting, those types of fees, because we get ourselves back to our $46.6 million. Again, there's still going to be some adjustment to this as we go forward. But as you see, this outlines where our money has been allocated based upon these 5 categories of renovation within the buildings. And so, as you see, we've spent the majority, a good portion of our money on the additional collaborative spaces, the South Campus cafeteria, common spaces there, and then also the mechanical renovations, which ultimately does make sense because those are 2 of the more expensive parts of these projects. And so then you see the rest of those percentages are broken out there by where we've put those dollars, and be happy to answer any questions on any of that for you.
And just a reminder, so those 5 categories are what the community outlined in the fall of '22. So when we did the surveys and the focus groups, we came up with those objectives.
Did we rank them back then? I can't remember. They
No.
weren't ranked. They were
No,
just.
they were
okay.
just, these
I
are the
just
5
wasn't sure if
priorities,
there was a-
basically.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is a really, I like this.
It's good to see
can
where the dollars
understand
went
it.
and the
No,
quick
but I
percentage.
think, right, I
is a
think
nice
the
way to-
percentage is really key. And I think we've just talked about this for so many, I mean, we've not done more than talk. But, you know, I mean, there's been so much action on it and everything like that, but it's really neat to see it really broken down, to see just how substantial,
Yeah.
like, you know, this work has been.
Right.
You know, to see it all there, it's really impressive, like, it's so much work for you guys. So
How did
thank
you budget the architect's fee and all of this as a percentage, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so we took a percentage of what the architects basically said, look, here's the percentage they're gonna charge us. I don't remember off the top of my head, 7.5% or 8%, something along those lines, and then just applied that to the cost of the project. And so, that's how we added that dollar amount back in, and then split it up by these percentages.
So it's equal across each of the categories.
So 7%
5%
for all of them. They get 7% of every dollar amount.
No,
Am I correct?
it's not a flat percentage to each one of these. It is,
Percentage of
what we
the
did is,
percentage?
well, here's what I did. We initially took the cost of each one of those 5 categories and came up with those percentages. Then we reallocated the architect fees based on those 18.65 to 34%, and added that back in. Because that's really sort of an apples to apples comparison, if you will, of if we're spending more dollars here, then they're spending more of their time and dollars on that section of the project. So it's not just a flat, like, hey, divide it up by 5 and take 20% of the architect fees and
Percentage
just
of the
add.
percentage, yeah.
Correct,
Right.
yes. Yeah, which seemed to be more of a better way to do it.
Yeah, because, I mean, in number 4, you got 0.6%. If the architecture fee was 300,000, you would have paid
Yeah, it
more for
wouldn't
the
make any
architecture
sense.
than the lighting.
Right.
Right, that would
Everybody'd be like, what are you doing?
That would be
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
way out of whack, and
sure.
you'd ask me the question, say, why'd you pay $300,000 on a $260,000 project?
Right.
And that'd be a fair question.
And I've said this before, but like, we need to do this again, right? So this information, the 5 objectives are now, you know, going on 4 years old. And so, you know, we need when we come across that next significant funding source, my recommendation would be we do some type of exercise with our community to, whether it's through surveys, focus groups. It could look the same as we did it last time. It could look completely different than we did it last time. But we need to go back to them and say, okay, what do we prioritize now?
Yeah.
Because it is, and we probably need to have our architects do another mechanical assessment, or at least update the mechanical assessment that they did last time. But it costs money to do that, so I'm really hesitant to do it until we identify that significant funding source.
Well, and I would also say we have like all the health and safety aspects to do too. That might be something, once we know more funding source, like whether
Right.
that be from,
That's gotta be in the mechanical assessment that the architects
Right.
do, that's gotta be, it should be baked into that, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, it's all there.
Yeah.
The good news is we'll actually knock some of the red items off the list, which is
Right.
great.
Right.
We got that. So,
Yeah.
progress, it's good.
And we could do it in the same way that we're talking about doing our strategic plan. Also, call it a board meeting, we're all here, we invite the community in, and we have those conversations.
I love that. I mean, really just to have it be
Open conversation.
an open conversation and to have,
Collaboration.
and there might be things obviously we need the health and safety, but there might be other things I feel like AC, I was actually a little shocked of how much that was on AC, because it was still some before, was
Yeah.
such a big improvement, but that was something people were so vocal about.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I don't know, I haven't personally heard anything about what we're missing right now
From people.
from the people. AC was so,
Right.
and even the cafeteria to an extent with some of the kids that
Yeah.
came to speak and things like that. But I personally haven't heard anything that's so,
Cafeteria and the bathrooms, I think we
Right.
had a lot.
we've had a
about
lot
that.
of them, like
I think you could follow the percentages here, right? And so like, because the air conditioning, the collaborative space of the cafeteria, we've accomplished a lot there. So, I'm just guessing, but if we asked our community, I think the athletic and wellness facilities would be a high priority, because we really haven't allocated any money to them
Right.
in these projects.
Maybe some
I
of the
think
classrooms.
modernizing our classrooms would be a big,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
the next one.
And
And
accessibility.
accessibility.
Right.
Well, and I
To
also
which I think sometimes that has to be mentioned to a lot of the public, who's that's not always on the
Right.
radar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do like the idea of, like you just generated some ideas there that I might not have thought of, like, to like, from a really big, like, umbrella to brainstorm, what are those things that we haven't done? And to put
Right.
those out to the community to say, is the athletic facilities the most important, or like, let the community speak, because we've done, like, you have a good theater, you have different
Right.
things,
Mhm.
that music and arts and everything like that. I think that'd be really, like, on a high level to get talking about, and to get people excited, because we can look at alternate funding sources, whether that be the land
Right.
sale or referendum or something like that.
No
I mean, we could-
referendum.
What?
No referendum.
Well,
could
that's
do,
that's a source. We don't
that
have
is a
lot-
source.
We
Yeah.
don't have a lot of other tools in our toolkit.
We could do like, almost like tours, or open the campuses to let people come in and
Yeah.
see them first, and then do a survey, and then
Right.
have an open board discussion.
I love it.
So we can plan that out, but there really isn't any reason to plan that out until we have a funding source.
Yeah.
Because right now, we're sitting at, the next significant funding source will be 2033. That's the next time we can sell bonds.
And we wouldn't plan for 2033,
years
we'd be
from
more
now.
like 2030,
Right.
2031 to be
Yeah,
talking about that.
last time we did it in 22, in the fall of 22, and we were selling the bonds in December of 23. So
Right.
in theory, if, using that same model, we would, in the fall of 32,
Got it.
we would do a community engaged process and get ready for that,
Still 6 years from now.
that bond sale. So still 6 years from
Yeah.
now. Right.
Yeah.
So in the absence of anything else,
Right,
our facilities are gonna look the same for the next 6 years.
right.
And the concern I have,
I mean, I should say, like, the $1.5 million to $2 million a year, we'll be able to do
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
exterior doors, we'll be able to do some roofs, we'll, some mechanical stuff, because that's typically the type of, projects that we do with that annual. We'll still be able to do that.
And the potential of the land sale too, could bring.
Yeah, would that move things up, though? If we, let's say we did sell the land in 2 years, that's 29. Would we look to do it prior to 32, 33, because we have the cash that we don't have to go out for bonds for? That's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been what the board has said, is that a property sale the proceeds will be used to fund facility improvements. So, if that were to go through, then I would come back to you guys and say, okay, now we have a funding source, let's talk about the community process and, to identify what are our priorities.
Yeah.
And I think it's helpful to see that at 46.6 million, what you get, like what does
Right.
that cost?
Yep.
Because it really is a time to, really reflect on like the priorities, but also the realities of
Yeah.
what you can
Well, and
afford with
I think the
that.
reality is very clear, really important to talk about, because I think initially when we started this, we had hoped for a lot more.
Yeah.
and prices
true.
just kept.
Big co-op.
I did.
Yep.
I think it was like almost, didn't we, was it, I don't, I'm bad at quoting
I mean, I'm
numbers, so I
not
don't
saying
like to say
anything,
it.
'cause clearly
Was
I'm
it 30% higher than we thought it was gonna be? Was
What
it
did you
almost
say?
that much?
Yeah,
Was
I
it
don't know the
almost
number.
30% higher than what we thought it was gonna be?
I don't remember off the
When
top
we
of my
got
head.
it back, but I
It was
remember.
significant.
It was,
Yeah.
it
We
was
had to
higher,
scale
no
back.
no
It
doubt.
was, it was.
I think too, like, you know, we also made some strategic decisions to do things a little differently. We had a couple of
Yeah.
different options. We had an option to renovate the existing cafeteria and not touch our music
Right.
facilities. We really felt like it was important to get the cafeteria in the middle of the campus versus where it's at, and so then that necessitated the requirement to renovate the music facilities,
Yeah.
which is fantastic for
Yeah.
our music department. Some of those types of decisions, which I believe are the right decision, because it turned out in an amazing facility, added cost, but I really feel like if you're going to do something, do it right the first time, and
I
then
agree.
if that means you have to defer a little bit, then you defer projects a little bit, and
And the longevity we get out of what
Right.
we've put into it,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's huge.
yeah.
Really quick, Brian, I wanted to ask, you mentioned about the touring of the facilities and that opportunity. Obviously, we had that one last winter. This past winter, did it in December, I think it was. We had a tour of the campus. I'm sorry, of the, not a tour, but we had the cafeteria opening
Oh,
and we
yeah,
saw the
yeah,
spaces and
yeah.
stuff. We're doing that again, right, for the spring? Do you know or not?
But what do you mean?
Like letting the public come in, the community come in and see the
The new cafeteria.
renovated cafeteria and the music wing. And the reason I say that is because I've had a lot of people that said they were sorry that they missed it in December,
Okay.
and they were really looking forward to it, and because so many people had said such good things. And I know
Yeah.
it would require a lift on our end to do it again, but it really was a hit.
I mean, honestly, we
People
don't,
loved it.
I don't know that we would do the same thing we did last time, but
Sure.
it's open all the time, like,
Right.
I
Like
mean,
a community chat instead of the whole
we,
grand
yeah, we
opening,
could, actually,
can do
we could just do a community chat in there, and then
Okay.
anyone can come anyway.
And then they
And
can tour and see it.
LCCAC is there.
And we're doing LTCC tomorrow night there.
That's right. Maybe
Yeah, and
I
but
hate,
you-
I hate to say it, but is it expensive to ask the food request? Because I was also talking of the food. I don't know if that's even a possibility, but.
I've
I don't
had
know.
people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I missed it. And I've given them tours." So like,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
just put that
true.
out for public. Like, if someone wants to come see it, just have them.
They can.
Or if you talk to
Okay.
people, have them come reach out to me.
Yeah, because, yeah, and then the people, like I said, who did see it just have had nothing but amazing things to say about it.
Yep.
What, I thought the video was great. I mean, really
Yeah.
just, it's
Yeah.
been, and I think,
The
what-
student performers were
I mean,
amazing.
that's probably the
right?
idea. Let's do a community chat in there. The quarter, we're doing the one this weekend, but maybe do the quarter 4 one in there, and that would be like in April, May.
and then what about like the, for homecoming next year?
Oh yeah, we'll do the alumni association
Be in there.
event, the Hall of
Instead of
Fame
the
induction.
corral, I guess.
That'll
Oh,
be
instead
there
of,
because it wasn't
the
ready
corral.
in September.
Right, but that might be a great place to be
Yeah.
holding that.
Open house.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
like, I
the
mean,
alumni association actually just met in there last week.
oh my God, I
You got
love
to
it.
see it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I did see that.
It's great.
I'm sorry, any other questions?
Yeah.
So we've kind of just touched on all of this right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, we
right?
totally did.
The one thing I do want to mention to the board that I think is important is when we talk about those athletic spaces. There are items even within the within the athletic spaces that are mechanicals, items that will also need to be replaced at some point. For example, the bleachers here in the North Campus field house. They are working, they are safe, they are also aged. And so that's an item that you look at and you say, at some point, we're gonna have to look at replacing those. The turf field at Bennett Field is coming up on 8 or 9 years old
Gotta be. Yeah,
at
'cause
this
it was
point.
pre-pandemic.
It is.
It was at least a year or two before the.
Yeah, I
pandemic,
think it was 17.
Yeah.
I think was when we replaced that one. And so typically on a turf field, you can expect to get about 10 years out of it. So that's another item that we'll have to look at here coming up. It's not immediate, but it's these types of things, like there's still wear and tear even on
Right.
those facilities. The last field, the turf field prior to that, I think we had for 13 years, and it really needed to be replaced at the time we did it. So those are the kinds of things. The gymnasium floors, for example, at South Campus, the gymnasium floors we have over there, we have sanded and refinished those to the point that we can't sand and refinish them anymore. The next time we go to refinish those floors, it's a full-on floor replacement.
Right.
Because we've sanded them down, and if we sand them again, you'll actually have the tops of the nails right at the floor level. So that's not what we want. So there's clearly, within those athletic spaces, things that we have to look at to keep those functional also going forward. So those are, again, just some things to keep in
Cheaper to
mind.
do it proactively than reactionary.
Right. Right. So, that being said, there were even items that we kind of deferred from last year's projects, right? We deferred, we talked about another elevator. That was on that list. We talked about more modernization to more of the classroom spaces, some common spaces here at North Campus. Essentially, we deferred those at that point. We talked about, which is still kind of on the table, the potential of adding a turf field at Westfield. And so that's another project that we had out there, is still out there, but we deferred, at this point, and we'll have to bring back up here and look at how we're gonna maneuver with that. So those are items that were on that list that we had for the initial projects, but when we started looking at where the importance was, the cost of what those projects were going to be, what were we going to defer and then bring back. Now, this list also includes those projects, plus other additional items as well that came off of that facility study. And our best guess right now is somewhere between $85 and $100 million for many of these projects, HVAC related, again, roofing, all of those things we just talked about. But we have no additional funding source for those at this time. We have the couple of $1 million a year that we can move forward with, and that will, I don't even know if at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it'll put a dent in what we have here. So, and again, those are just what we pulled out from the major highlights from what we deferred, and then what still exists on that facility study. Any questions on any of that at all?
It's a little depressing, but it was great.
Oh, we had to end on that note,
Yep.
but yeah, you're right.
Thanks for, but I think we need that we need that
Yeah.
gut check to.
Totally.
Like, when you had said mentioning like the floors.
Right.
That's something we have not talked, that I'm not aware of, that we've talked about here.
Right, we have
I mean,
not.
that's not fun money.
Right.
That's just necessary money to do.
Correct.
I
And
mean,
like those are
there's-
just operating the facilities.
Right.
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 That's no different than like a roof replacement type of
Right.
situation.
Exactly.
To maintain them. So like, I just have a question on the bleachers. That seems like that would be a huge project.
It would be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that to me,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
again, let's be clear, the bleachers, as I mentioned those,
are working.
they're working and they're safe. They're inspected, we have them inspected as we're required to do every year. They're they're working, all that, but they're also, I think the ones here are original to the field house.
Right.
I guess.
And so at some point, everything has its useful life.
Original
It's
to
the same for the
field house,
53
yeah.
years I've been sitting on it.
Yeah. And so at some point,
They're
everything,
vintage.
its useful life
I mean,
is
they're kind of fun.
so.
And I know that the washroom locker room renovations in the Vaughn are really
Oh,
needed,
that's-
too. I've
that's-
toured
That's a big
the-
project.
That's another
that is
project.
Necessary.
Yeah.
I've
That's
talked
like going
about
into the cave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The restroom, the washrooms, and also like the coaches' locker rooms over there.
I
It would be
know.
one
Yep.
big project that would be, that is really a necessity. We have the transition program. We have a house. They're housed in the corral. Many districts are building brand-new facilities for the transition program. I would love to do that.
I love
at some
that
point.
idea.
I mean, and we have the land
Always
for it,
wanted
right?
to do something
We
for
have
the
the house
corral.
there. We have the land. It's in a great location. But we need to raise the house and build a new facility there with parking and everything.
A sponsor for that?
So there's a lot of,
The same thing.
Call it a
a
certain house.
lot of
that
these things
somebody
we've been
really wants.
talking about. They're either in the
Anybody
plan
wants
from
to
3 years
sponsor?
ago or not, but they're obviously topics of discussion. One thing I don't think we've talked about with this board, but the Westfield project, which is the soccer field, that was originally in phase one. We have, a semi-partnership with the Village of LaGrange, where they are in the process of accessing money to contribute to that project to help with stormwater detention. I follow up with their village administrator every 6 months or so just to kind of see where we're at. They know from our perspective that project's on hold pending these discussions. But at the same time, they need several years to actually access the money, and so they're in the process of that. But that would be a great partnership if we can ever get to that point.
Is that what would look like, and I should probably know this, but like the Western Springs field that's down off of Wolf Road, what park is
Springdale Park.
that? What is it?
Springdale
It was
Park.
right, it's
Yeah.
Springdale Park. They did that, right? Did we?
Yeah, I know what you're
Okay.
referring to here.
Yeah.
And So, no, it wouldn't be similar to that.
Okay.
In the sense that they have built retention ponds on the park area. What the village is looking to do is install underground
Underground,
storage
okay,
tanks
okay.
for the water. So
Got
it
it.
wouldn't, our fields would
Okay.
all be usable the way that they
Okay.
are today.
Okay.
But they'd be looking to install underground storage tanks.
That's helpful.
So, yeah,
okay.
so that's,
I mean, essentially what it was is for the standard soccer turf field that we want to build, we need 30% of that field for detention, and we've offered to them the other 70% for stormwater detention.
That's
underneath
great, yeah.
yeah.
So we're still gonna use it for retention anyway, right?
Right.
Is that what
Right.
you're saying?
it. Well, but we only need 30%.
Right, but
We're
I'm saying it's
saying,
still gonna be
we've
retention.
offered to them and say,
Right.
if you guys want to use the other 70% for stormwater detention,
Right.
then it would cover their costs, of course, but again, that's
That
a
would help
that's
fund.
just a part that's
Right.
gonna take time.
But as far as giving them land, not giving them, but sharing some land, it's already gonna be used for retention anyway.
Right.
It
So
would.
regardless of, in case it comes back to you, as far
Right.
as saying it was gonna be retention anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
We're not,
yeah.
giving out land that we can utilize for
No.
something else.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
just,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just want to
Yeah.
clarify that
Yeah, yeah.
because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know what they're gonna do is in underground and then you're above it, right?
Right, right.
But for me, my thing would be the upkeep of that tomorrow, like the
Mm-hmm.
upkeep of that. Is that gonna be on the LT side, the upkeep, in case it caves in or something? Or is that gonna be them, you get,
I mean, we haven't even gotten to that point yet
Okay,
in terms
right.
of
For the
intergovernmental agreements.
right,
and
for the
all that, but
future
that's
board,
all-
that would
I mean,
be
we're
a question
still
to ask.
years away from that.
Right, I know.
Based on these
right,
discussions.
but I'm
yeah.
saying that future
But
board
those
would
are
be a
all things
question
we're
to
gonna
ask
have to
because
ask, yeah.
the upkeep is gonna be the cost,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
beginning.
Right. And then, as Dr. Waterman mentioned, any upsizing that the village would be, they'd be paying for in terms of upfront cost of the project.
Well, that's what I said, was perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I suspect that would somewhere be in that intergovernment agreement that they would be responsible for that going forward too, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It has
something
to be
we'll have,
right.
attorneys will get involved.
Right, that's what I said.
Agreements.
Oh, yeah.
Just
and-
remember that for the
Yeah.
future is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Remember some kind of
But I
clause in
think
there
you could
for
have a
the
lot of
future.
community support on that because of all the flooding that you have. in
For
that
sure.
range.
100%.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? And that,
100%.
I mean, wasn't there, I think they just went to the, like, people were just complaining about some of the
Yeah.
flooding
yeah.
again. And I know,
have
I was
again.
personally impacted, years ago about the sewer line,
It's been a hot topic in this
Oh, yeah.
area for a
right,
long
which, I
time.
mean, would
Long
be,
time.
you'd get a lot of,
Support, yeah.
Yep.
support for it.
Okay, so just one final slide here, upcoming tasks related to Goal
Real
5.
quick.
Brian, hold
Oh,
on.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, just
Sorry,
real
Joy.
quick. The accessibility improvements, I'm sure there's a whole list of accessibility improvement needs, similar to the life safety listing that we reviewed
Right.
at one of these prior meetings. Is there, is that housed somewhere, the listing of accessibility needs?
The five-year plan has that broken out
All
on the
of
it? The
website,
last one,
isn't it? Isn't that on the website?
Yeah, it's, the 22 plan.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
The
yeah,
22
yeah,
plan,
yeah.
does,
Yeah.
yeah.
Has-
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of the elevators were a big piece, even like all the restroom upgrades that have
Yep.
been done,
That's right.
that really accomplished a lot of accessibility
Yeah.
work because now they're ADA accessible. But we have major needs when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just ready to take another look at that.
Yep.
And we've been incorporating those into projects as we do them.
Yeah,
Because it
that's
makes
great.
sense at that time to do it, so.
Okay.
Sorry, Joy.
No, thank you.
All right, so just a couple other things that we're gonna do here. We'll complete the FY '25 financial statements. I spoke with the auditors today. The goal is for them to have me a draft copy by the end of this week, hopefully. And then we'll, get that into the board packet for the February, regular board meeting. That's the plan right now. So hopefully I don't hear anything different from them, so we should be good to go with that. Again, in March, then we'll update that annual 5-year forecast that I share with the board, and we'll talk about what we see coming with that. And then coming up as far as the projects go, we have the summer work that we talked about that we're going to complete here. And then we're going to have actually a couple of bids coming to the board. One is for additional asbestos removal for those areas on the lower level and the first floor to complete that work for the summer. And then, of course, the items that we talked about with the life safety. There will be a bid spec going out in the street for that. And hopefully we'll be bringing that back to the board in March at some point here. So, and then approving those projects for the coming summer. And so that's where we are.
Thank you so
A lot of really
much.
hard work.
I'm just gonna
That's
say, I really
great.
appreciate it, because I really struggle with the finances, like in the breakdown, and I really, like, appreciate it, and you're always like patient when I ask the same question about that fund balance, and every time it's brought up, I've got a question.
Jill, just so you know, I have the same concerns all the time.
Okay, like, I just feel like
when I
I'm
wake
like-
up at 2:30 in the morning and I start thinking about it, I have the same.
Well, I'm not waking up at 2:30 in the morning,
Oh, I
but,
am.
you know what I mean, about this.
Keeps
But-
it at night.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it was, yeah, but I just, so I always appreciate you that you always like break it down, because I just really feel like for all of us here, and like, we really need to fully understand that, because that's so impactful. And I,
Yeah.
you know, so I really appreciate that.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right.
Any other questions from anybody?
Thank you.
So more
Good.
to, more to come on
Thank
that
you
the
so
next
much.
couple
Sure.
meetings.
Yeah, we'll have a few more, we'll have some more updates in the next couple of meetings, like you
Great.
said, so.
Thank you.
And I'm hopeful that it's all gonna be.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you,
I
Brian.
know we all appreciate it, very
Yeah, I really
informative and
appreciate all the
thorough,
hard work.
And love the,
Condensing it into
the
it.
recognition status and the AAA S&P credit rating. Those, we can't highlight those two things enough, so that's a kudos to
Yeah.
you, your predecessors, and everybody that's involved in that, so thank you. to
And the board too, so.
So real quickly on
Yep.
strategic plan, so this is obviously the last official goal update of the year. So what we'll do next is, our action teams will come back together in early May, and they will look at the priority list from this year, and they will start to draft updated priority lists for next year. And then we will vet those lists through a variety of leadership teams, and then we'll all end at the board table at the June regular action meeting, where we'll bring draft priority lists to you guys. You'll consider them, you'll consider approving them, and then we'll be off and running for another year,
Yep.
which is the last year. And then obviously during next school year, we'll have to talk about, what process we're gonna use to kind of recommit, refresh, update it,
5-year plan.
however we wanna do it.
Yeah. Excellent. And I guess on that note too, our next meeting, we will have some closed session things. I know we're all in the middle or have finished Brian's evaluation. We will meet at our next one in closed session to discuss that. May adjust some nuances of when we're meeting in closed session or not before we meet with Brian on his. But just wanna make sure everybody's got that on the radar. The evaluations are being completed this week. And then we will talk about getting that finalized in the next 2 weeks. I'm sorry, 2 meetings is our plan. So I think we're still good on our timelines. Good?
Okay, right. But we're not doing evaluation at the next meeting, you mean?
We will, at our next meeting, have a closed session for just the board to talk.
Oh, so on the 17th, I thought that had been changed.
No, the next one.
March.
Our next meeting is February 17th.
Sorry, you're right.
March
Sorry.
2nd.
Okay.
Plays out in
Getting a
March.
little
Committee,
confused.
the next committee of the whole.
Evals are due
Okay.
next Tuesday.
Monday, the
Monday.
9th.
Thank you.
Monday the 9th.
February 17th, regular action meeting, we're not meeting.
Other than that, you got everything
March
right.
2nd.
It'll be in March.
I got one of them.
Okay.
We're in the right year.
He threw me off because I read your emails. I was like, okay, I'm looking at.
I'm just glad it's not
you're looking at
January.
him. I'm like,
Yeah.
Glad it's
Yeah,
not January.
We are doing it a little bit more efficient. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else on
And
that?
thankfully Marilyn keeps us
Yes,
updated
she
with good
does.
emails, so I
Well,
appreciate that.
yeah, I was all confused today. I was like, it says complete, and
I'm
so
trying.
you need to complete. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. We got this.
All right. Anything else? All right. Do we have any other speakers? I'm assuming not. The room is empty.
It's quiet.
It is 8:17. May I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's a wrap. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
everybody.